Good evening, everyone. Tonight we're going to be looking at two topics. Actually, in the first video, we're going to be looking at how do you convert a decimal to a fraction at a 5th grade level. And in the second video, we're going to look at how do you convert fractions back to decimals, again at a 5th grade level. So let's start right off. Now I am going to be referencing throughout this some of my other videos, so if we run into something and you're not sure what it is I'm doing, for example, simplifying the fraction, I do have some earlier videos on that. You just need to go to my channel page and check that out. So we are going to assume some background already, so don't feel bad about needing to stop. Go check the other videos and we'll go from there. All right, to start with, we need to go back to something we started the year with, which was place values. And if we look at the top here, what I'm really talking about with you is where numbers are located when we are writing them. So for example, tens place would be numbers like 20, 30, 40, 50. Ones place, well, that's 0 through 9. So if we said 21, it'd be 21. Then we have the decimal, and then we get into the decimals themselves, the place values of them. We have the first one to the right of the decimal is the 1/10th place. You can see it here written as a fraction underneath it. The 1/100th place and the 1/1000th place, and that's all the further out we're going to go this year. But it's important to keep those place values in mind as we get ready to write our decimals. So to start with, I'm going to move us up here a little, and we're going to start with a decimal. For example, this decimal, which is the number 3 in the space just to the right of the decimal. So I would read this as 3/10. It's a 3 located in the 10th place. Now, what our goal is in this first video is to write these as fractions. And really, they are written exactly the way they're spoken. So in this case, if I say 3/10, the fraction for this is going to be a 3 in the numerator, which we did talk about numerator and denominator in an earlier video. And the denominator, the bottom number, will be tenths. So in other words, 3 out of 10 pieces. So 0.3 is 3/10, and it would be written as a fraction as such, 3/10. Our next number here, we see there's a 0 now in the 10th place and a 3 in the 100th place. Now when we're reading these, what we're really doing is the last digit we read, whatever place value it's in, is the place value we say. So in this case, that 3 is in the 2nd place, the 100th place, so we would read this as 3/100, or 3 out of 100 pieces. Now as a fraction, again, that would be 3/100, 3/100. Okay, again the idea. Our next place value is the thousandths place. So again, I have, if you notice, 0.003, or 3 in the thousandths place, which would be 3 out of 1,000 pieces. So we cut something into 1,000 pieces. We're only going to use 3 of them. As a fraction, we would write that as 3/1000. Okay? Not going to make it very complicated there. Now, we've dealt with, as far as we're concerned here, 1-digit type decimals, regardless of their placing. What happens if I have a 2-digit? Well, this next one should look very familiar because it's also the same way we write 25 cents in our language. 0.25, or 25 cents, 25 out of 100. So if you look at 25 hundredths, what we do is we look at it and we say, okay, that 2 is in the 10th place. That has a value of 20. 5 is in the 1/100th place, so it's 5 out of 100. Together it's 25, so we would read it as the entire number, 25. Then we name the place value of the very last digit. So 25, and in this case, hundredths. 25 hundredths as a fraction would look like this. 25 100ths. Now, here's the thing. This is where the kids get a little frustrated. We can't leave that as 25 100ths. If it can be put in simplest form, we need to reduce it to simplest form. With 25 and 100ths, we need to find the greatest common factor of those two numbers. Now, if you're not sure how to do that, there is an earlier video on greatest common factors. The greatest common factor of 25 and 100 is 25. That's a number that goes into both 25 and 100. So, that 25 100ths, I'm going to divide both the numerator and the denominator by 25. When I do that, I come up with a new fraction that's not going to look like a decimal anymore, because in simplest form, 25 100ths is really 1/4. Okay? Just like we were simplifying our fractions earlier, we need to do that again to get simplest form. Now, when we are writing fractions from decimals, sometimes we get these numbers where we actually have a whole number. We see that a lot with money. If I have $7.25, that would be written as 7 and 25, and since it's cents, we would say hundredths. So it would look like this: 7 and 25 hundredths. Notice I'm saying and at the decimal. That is the proper way. That's how we recognize there is a decimal point there. So we read our whole number, 7, and then we read the entire decimal number, 25. What's the place value of its last digit? That's the hundredths place. So it's 25 hundredths. To write that as a fraction, we're actually going to write something called the mixed number. We actually did a video on mixed numbers earlier. A mixed number uses both the whole numbers and the fractions together. So the 7 is actually going to act as the whole number. That's a number that has its full value. So it gets to remain the large number. It's 7 whole somethings. So 7. It's the 25 hundredths that's going to become the fraction. 25 hundredths, we write it just like it sounds. So 25 hundredths. And we would read that as, whoops, sorry there, 7 and 25 hundredths. Again, though, I cannot leave the fraction as 25 hundredths. If it can be simplified, I need to simplify it. We've already done 25 hundredths. Remember, we divided by 25, which we said was 1/4. So 7 and 25 hundredths is equivalent to 7 and 1/4. Let's look at one here and let you try one now. I'm going to give you a decimal with a whole number, and I'd like you to try to write it as a fraction. Let's see how you do. Okay, so the number I'm going to try is 13, and let's try one we haven't done yet. Let's do 27 hundredths. So 13 and 27 hundredths. I'll give you a moment. Pause right here. See if you can convert that to a fraction. Okay. Excuse me. Did you hit pause? And did you get a chance to work out the problem? Hopefully you did. 13 and 27 hundredths was our number. Okay, so as we break this down and try to convert it to our fraction, I'll try to find an equivalent fraction, really, is what we're doing. What we're going to do is first take care of the whole number. Now, here's an area where 5th graders and a lot of people run into this problem. Make sure the whole number is constantly traveling with the problem as you're converting it. Don't leave it behind because it gets forgotten. And it really needs to be part of that final number. So the first thing I always do is I bring over that whole number, 13. Now I'm ready to write my fraction. Again, say the decimal, 27 hundredths. 27 hundredths as a fraction would look like this: 13 and 27 hundredths. Is that what you got? I hope so. Now, 27 hundredths, I do need to see if 27 and 100 have a greatest common factor. The factors of 27 are 1 and 27, not 2, doesn't work, 3 and 9. 3 and 9 don't go into 100. 4, no. 5, no. 6, no. 7, no. 8, no. We're back to 9. They don't have a common factor. Because they don't have a greatest common factor, their only common factor is 1, and 27 100ths is actually in simplest form, and that will happen to you sometimes. Let's try another one. Okay, this next one is a bit of a challenge. We're going to do 37 and 125. Remember, we read the whole number as if it were just a number all by itself, 125. The 5 is in the thousands place. It's the last number I read. So this is 125 thousandths. Let's see if you can do this one. The simplifying can be done. It's a little harder for this one, though. So see if you can pull it off. We'll see what you get as an answer right now. Okay, I don't have a lot of time left, so let's see how you did. Did you come up with 37 and 125 thousandths to start? If you did, very good. Next, you should have found the greatest common factor, and 125 goes into 1,000. How many times? 8 times. When you simplified, you should have come up with 37 and 1/8. 125 actually does go into 1,000, so you have to watch for those. All right, I hope you did really well. I will see you in the next video where we will be changing fractions back to decimals. We'll see you in a moment.